All right, good afternoon. Welcome back here to Trader Money. Great to have you aboard. I'm on just a little bit earlier here, and that's because I pulled the trigger and bought some Halliburton calls. And, it's one of those where it's been a while since I've been able to really get into an oil trade that I liked a lot. And today I'm not going to waste any more time. I jumped in here to Halliburton. I bought about $1,400 worth here of it, and bought the 36 strike out about 3 weeks here. So something I'm looking to move, and it needs to move, but I'm looking for it to retrace here. And let me just clear out all the indicators here. But I'm just looking for a retracement. Show you what that looks like. But here of this drop, and a retracement puts it up into the 37 to 39 area. So a pretty big range there. But got the short-term buy signal on the gap up here this morning. Kind of watch some of the price action on it today. It's very unusual for Halliburton when it's ready to make a move. And you look at it when it's ready to kind of, ahead of some of its upper upticks, right? Very rarely does the stock close near its high. It's just not a Halliburton thing, which I know can frustrate many. But, it's off of its highs nicely here today. I've seen a little bit more strength kind of coming back into it. But, this is one where, look, we could talk about oil and the price of oil, and yes, the price of oil is going to matter when it comes to this trade. But this is a purely technical trade where I'm buying it here today off of today's lows. I have a good thrust here today off of this nice little consolidation, breaking above the highs, the most recent highs, and so sets up a pretty nice risk-reward scenario with that. And so that's what I'm running with. This is not something where I go, oh, well, I bought Halliburton, so go buy oil, or, hey, Iranian sanctions, this, that, and the other. I still think there's a lot of chaos and a lot of headaches to go within the space and within the actual price of oil. But we did see, we saw the earnings on Exxon. And when the Exxon earnings happened, I didn't talk about what it meant for Exxon. I talked about what it meant for a lot of other companies, especially in the Permian Basin. And, it's one of those where, today Halliburton's CEO was on Bloomberg talking about the Permian Basin. Frankly, I didn't like some of his responses when it came down to things. In fact, I think you could probably make a little more bearish argument out of some of his responses. But, we're not talking about a company that doesn't have issues. There's definitely a bearish thesis there. I do think it's incredibly undervalued right here. I think this is something that, if you look at a normal fundamental valuation where the price of oil is, you're looking in the 46 to 48 area. But when it comes down to oil stocks, they don't trade with their fundamental valuations all that often. But this nice little thrust, and using that as an opportunity to get in with today's lows as a stopping point there. We're going to have the midterm elections here in the U.S. and all of that, is going to happen. And we're going to, see some volatility start to come into S&P futures. Today, we see a little bit of thrust here in the market, here into the close. A lot of it going into some safety names, the Pepsis, the Walmarts, these consumer staple names here, just general U.S. domestic consumer names. What's really interesting is if you look at the SPY, it's up 16 points. The S&P 500 is up 16 points. You look at the NASDAQ, it's down. It's off its lows, but it's down. You look at small caps, they're down. They're off their lows, but they're down. So we definitely have a outperformance here in the S&P on the day. And you know what? We talked about last week, market vibe turned bullish. What does that mean? What are the implications? Well, when the market vibe turned bearish, what were the implications? The implications were volatility was going to be increased dramatically. The swings were going to increase. Well, what happens when we see the metrics turn bullish? Yeah, generally the market goes up. Like generally when it's bearish, the market goes down. But one of the biggest implications of a bullish market vibe is the fact that the volatility compresses. The range of movement compresses, and the differentiation starts to emerge again. When everything's going up big and down big, there is no differentiation, no sectoral differentiation. But when we see the market metrics turn bullish, one of the big products of that, or one of the big things you tend to see afterwards, is a lot of stock differentiation, just out there in the market. And we've seen that since last week when we saw the market vibe turn bullish. The market itself hasn't really gone anywhere, but, we are seeing a lot more differentiation come into the markets. And that's what I'm expecting that we will continue to see as we go forward, with maybe a little dash of a little less differentiation come Wednesday morning after the election shakeout, and we'll probably have a sizable market move there at that time, especially after things moved aggressively. Now, in terms of KD signals, one of the KD signals on the board here today is Halliburton. And this is, one of the reasons I chose it. Does have the 3-7 crossing. It's not a low consolidation risk KD signal. This isn't, like Exxon last week. This is a little bit higher consolidation risk on the KD signal, but it is triggering bullish here today. We have some other energy names that have the similar kind of 3-7 crossover, like Oxy, Noble Energy doing the same thing. We have some 3-7 crossover action in Capital One, going on here, but not really triggering here with KD. And then in the airlines, we have Southwest given that kind of 3-7 crossover, but not really a bullish KD signal. We also see Microsoft with the 3-7 crossover, and this is a KD signal here today. If it were to close right here, it does end here with a bullish KD signal. We saw some huge put activity going on in Microsoft today, and some big put buying. And generally, when you see a lot of put buying like that, where they're buying underneath here, generally that's a protective trade where they're going to buy the stock. They're planning to buy many shares over the coming week or days or even hours, and they bought protection ahead of time, and that's really kind of what it looked like there for Microsoft, is just buying some major protection for a bullish acquisition of the stock. If you look at some things like General Dynamics, does have a 3-7 crossover today. Northrop Grumman 3-7 crossover today, but all on the very high consolidation risk standpoint there. Microsoft's the only one with that low consolidation risk here on it today. So anyway, that's just a quick look at a few things. So I'm into Halliburton here for the challenge, and going to hold this into the close. And look, it's Halliburton. If you've ever traded Halliburton before, you know that 30 cents up, 30 cents down doesn't mean a heck of a whole lot. I've positioned it so that I can ride it for about 5, 6, 7 days is kind of my hope, and we just kind of mosey on above the 7-day moving average and meander up here to the 38.5, 39 level is what I would like to see. And then I have Adobe, which, my options are just under $3 right here. It's right here under the 200-day moving average. I looked very closely at adding some more here to it. I decided to go with Halliburton instead. But, it's a very interesting position right here. And I still think that my position is going to pay off. I'm going to look at it here tomorrow or Wednesday, especially if we get a rebound into the 247, 248 level. And I may roll it out a little bit. It's not something I normally do, but the way the options are priced, I can actually do that and not take a major ding. So I will be looking at doing that on the next rally here in Adobe. All right. So anyway, that's kind of my thoughts on a few things out there. Look, I don't have any kind of major this is massively changing out there type of thoughts. We don't see that. That's not happening. A lot of the stocks that I was looking for some buy opportunities, haven't come back to the areas that I want, like a Caterpillar or something like that. But, Halliburton has given me that buy signal. So running here with that and with Adobe, and that should leave me about $1,500 in cash here for the challenge. And hopefully we'll get some nice push here with Adobe and HAL, and be able to really start to take advantage of some of these signals as they come in, and as I expect them to really come in heavily over the next 4 to 6 weeks. Thanks for hopping on. Have yourselves a great afternoon, and we'll talk to you later. Take care.